Good afternoon, everyone. This is Financial Literacy 101. So, I know a lot of you ask yourselves the question, how can you build generational wealth? What are some of the things that you can do to build generational wealth? And when we hear this term, the most likely what you guys think about is what? You think about that you have to be, you have to have a lot of money, right? You have to have millions of dollars, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars in the bank. Well, I don't want you to think about that. I don't want you, that is not even the hallmark. That's not even the mantra of generational wealth, in my opinion. Okay. I believe generational wealth is leaving something for your kids, for your kids' kids, in order for them to build on what you have built. See, a lot of us believe that, oh, we need to have 10 houses, or we need to have $1 million or $2 million, and so on and so forth. And this is how we have generational wealth. Well, first and foremost, what I've noticed that a lot of foundational Black Americans, aka Black people, we don't have a will, nor do we have a trust. So if you don't have a will or a trust, the amount of money that you have in your bank account is going to go to the government. Okay. Sometimes it may go to your kids based upon what that state actually has in their policies and regulations. But most likely, it will go to the government. It will stay inside that particular bank. So first and foremost, what you need is a will or a trust. And the question is, ask yourself right now, do you have an official will? Not some stuff you wrote down and signed your name to and threw it in a safe or in a corner or a shoebox or in a closet in one of your stinky shoes. I'm not talking about that. I'm actually saying, did you write up all your assets and anything that you can leave? Maybe an expensive clock, maybe jewelry, maybe $10,000, whatever the case may be. Did you sit down with a lawyer or either a notary and sign that will with a witness to make it an official document? If you have not done that, then you haven't even begun to have generational wealth. Because you can't even do that, okay, until you have a will or a trust. Now, when we talk about a trust, we have to understand that's leveling up your will. You can have both, by the way, but that's leveling up your will. Because we need to understand that a will can actually be contested in probate, aka court. A will can actually be contested in court. Whereas though a trust, it's a lot of added security where some judges and most judicial systems do not even consider a trust enough to even go into court with. If you have a trust, especially an irrevocable trust, that things that you're not going to pull from or grab from, whether you're alive or dead, and it's going to your significant other or it's going to your kids, then it cannot even be contested in court. So I advise you, and a lot of us believe that we can't have a trust. You can have a trust. Believe it or not, they're not expensive as we all think. Because anytime somebody says, oh, you must be getting that money from your trust account, because usually you have to deal with rich people. No. If you go over to KISS Trust, and I'm not sponsored by them, I have no affiliation with KISS Trust, okay? KISS, the word KISS Trust, very, very affordable. And you can make an irrevocable trust where you can put your assets or any money that you laying aside for your either significant other or either family members and or children. Now, once you get that out of the way, a lot of you would like to believe that, I'm creating a business and I want to build on this business and I want to make sure that I build this business big so my kids can have something. All right. I totally understand that. But let me just understand this. Did you know that you can leave your side hustle to your kids? And that can be a form of generational wealth. I really want you guys, when they talk about finances, to start thinking outside the box. Now, a lot of times you may not even come close to leaving your kids, which you may consider generational wealth. But let me inform you of this. If I had to put a money amount, what I'm talking about cash money, $5,000. Some of you are laughing at $5,000. But some of you need $5,000. But if I was to tell you that, hey, if you left your kid $5,000 and a plan, that could be generational wealth. That could be generational wealth. You may not be thinking like I'm thinking because you're thinking about $100,000. You're thinking about $250,000. But I'm thinking about $5,000. Can you leave your kids $5,000? And do you believe that's generational wealth? I know I'm speaking on a very, very low tier. I'm speaking about a very, very arbitrary amount. But I know some people, they take their goddamn tax return and they blow it. They don't save none of it. They don't pay on their house. They don't pay on their car, right? They just blow it. They just blow their money. And then they're talking about, I'm broke. I don't have nothing to leave my kids. It's this system out here. What about your stocks? Can your stocks be a form of generational wealth? Can you leave your stocks to your kids? Yes, you can. Again, it goes back to your will. See, if you wrote up a will or a trust and you said, hey, in the time of my timely demise, in the time that I pass away, I want all of my stocks, bonds, commodities to be left to Lord Ray Ray, to Lord Junebug, whoever it may be, their official name, right? I don't know. But this is how you leave generational wealth. You can leave generational wealth through your stocks. Because if they hold on to them stocks, we know the significant amount how the stock market has continued to bounce back and multiply on itself every single time. You guys have seen my portfolio many times. But again, I believe you guys subscribing and listening to so many people, when people start talking about generational wealth, you start thinking about millions and millions of dollars. No, that's not what it's all about. What if you left your house? What if you left your house? Could that be a form of generational wealth? Because I can tell you this, our counterparts, our European hybrid counterparts, leaving their house is a form of generational wealth. Because now your kids have, or your kids who will be grown, have a place to live. Because you may not pay off that house in your lifetime, but if you paid on it for 10, 15, 20 years, then your kids need to only have to pay on it another 15 years or another 10 years or even 5 years, and they own the home, and that home can be passed down from generation to generation to generation. All the while is building up what? Equity, as they're doing smart things to the home, like upgrading it. And this is why nurturing and informing your kids and showing your kids what's going on is important, because kids are very, very observant. You know, my son, he always asks questions like, wait a minute, did you just get the laundry room done? Yeah. Well, why did you do that? Well, it looks nice and it builds up property value. He may not know what it is, but it will start to manifest in his mind, right? It will start to manifest in his mind. And it will start to trigger things as he gets older, because now I'm planting the seed. Okay. And here's the thing about planting a seed, which I've known. Sometimes you plant a seed and you may never have an opportunity to see it grow, but you at least have to put in the work and plant the seed. Yes, indeed. You have to at least plant the seed. See, some of you are far-fetched. Your imagination about generational wealth is unattainable. Start to make obtainable generational wealth plans. Like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm broke. I'm going to do $5,000. $5,000 on how I'm going to start my generational wealth. I'm going to leave my son. I'm going to leave my daughter. I'm going to leave my sons. I'm going to leave my daughters all $5,000. I'm going to leave everybody $5,000. So if I live to be this age, I have what, 12,000 right now. So everybody got, $3,000. I'm going to make sure I put that in a will. I'm going to make sure I put that in a trust. We're talking about how to build generational wealth. Stop thinking up here. Stop thinking you need to go out and buy every real estate house in the world. Stop thinking that you need to go out and build a business. Yes, those things are great. And yes, you can and should do those things if you would like to. But sometimes your house, your stocks, the money you have liquid can be generational wealth. It's how you apply it. It's how you use it. It's how you allocate it. And you guys are not doing any of these things, then you're not even coming close of the start to build generational wealth. It doesn't matter, man, woman, or to your children, or to a family member, or to your nieces and nephews, whoever you want to give what you have attained in life to. How in the hell are you going to build generational wealth if you're thinking that generational wealth starts with $1 million? Or it starts with you owning your own business and having a brick and mortar, or your business assets and revenue is well over $150 million. No. Your generational wealth can start easily with your house. Your generational wealth can start easily with the stocks that you're investing in right now. How about this? I know you guys haven't even thought about this way of generational wealth. Have you guys thought about generational wealth and not leaving your kids or significant other debt? Have you thought about that? Have you thought about a form of generational wealth is first not starting or beginning or leaving debt to those people who matter the most in your life? Have you thought about that? Don't you know there's people that die every day and leave people all their debt? They have to pay all of this debt. Like, oh, well, ma'am, your name was on the mortgage. Your name was on the car. So, you're now responsible for the car. Did you know that's a form of generational wealth? See, we need to start thinking outside the box about what's generational wealth. Now, some of you are like, well, no one should leave anyone in debt, but that's not the reality. And everybody goes through this, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, it doesn't matter, indifferent or another. A lot of us throughout our lifetimes leave debt to our significant others and or kids sometimes. So we have to start thinking about these things. Now, if you're going to build a business and you have your family's part of the business and your business is in debt, but parts of your family is on the contract in this business, they're part of the paperwork of this business. Guess what? If you die, who is left with the business? Who is left with the financial responsibility of this business? Who is left with the debt of this business? Then you're taking away what you, quote unquote, may call generational wealth, because again, you have let them debt. Good afternoon, Nolan Baptiste. Good afternoon, Nicole Moody. And good afternoon, Ashley Hawkins. Nice to see all of you great people inside the chat today. So today we're talking about how do you build generational wealth. Not only that, but we're talking about how generational wealth comes in many different forms. Because the way you look at generational wealth and the way that I look at generational wealth are totally different. Because the way that I build generational wealth is, again, minimizing and alleviating and eliminating my debt. That's what I do. The second thing I do is building my savings, my emergency fund with my savings account. That's another way how I'm building my generational wealth. Simple things that I've already told you. Boop, it's your light bulb should come on right now. Doing those simple things for your life actually has a double meaning to it. When you take care of your life, you are building generational wealth for the next life. You start building that emergency fund, right? But let me ask you this. What if that emergency never comes? And throughout the course of your life, you have, let's say, for instance, 6 months of all your expenses. And let's take, for instance, right? Let me just do some arbitrary numbers here. I dropped my pen, excuse me. Let me tally up all my bills in my house, right? So let's do this really quickly. I'm going to tell you if I did 6 months of this right here. Give me 1 second. Doing a little bit of math right here. So I'm going to take that amount. I'm going to times that by 6. Okay. What was that? 24, 2. Oh, wow. So what I'm looking at here, ladies and gentlemen, okay? What I'm looking at right here, what if I said that if I did this, that this right here, anyone tell me What is 3,400 times 6? And tell me if you think that's a form of generational wealth. Anybody, anybody, anybody. Very, very simple. 3,400 times 6. Do you think that's generational wealth? I know we're doing something very, very basic, but again, 34 times 6 is $20,000, 20,400. Is that a form of generational wealth? I believe it is. Because I told you with a small amount of $5,000, it's what your kids and significant others do with that money. So if you're doing right by your finances, so if you saved up 6 months, $20,000, you saved up $20,000 and you left that to your son, you left that to your daughter, you left that to your husband, or you left to your wife. What could they do with that money in order to grow, in order to sustain, in order to pass down generational wealth? But see, the problem is when people talk about generational wealth, it's kind of like a side comment, like, yeah, man, you got to build up generational wealth. You got to pass things down to your kids. Like nobody knows what the hell they're talking about, quite frankly, right? You don't hear an in-depth conversation about generational wealth. You don't hear an in-depth method and strategy about generational wealth. And when you do hear it, it goes where, right? Because they're speaking up here, right? They're speaking way, way, way above your head, and they haven't even started you off with a foundation. See, you need a foundation. In your foundation, you need to do the right things by yourself first. You need to have a will and or trust. Say it again. You need to have a will and or trust. So your family is not fighting over your $3,000. Your family is not fighting over your $20,000. The money has its own place, has its own position, who it's going to go to, who is already assigned to with that will and or trust. That's the first thing you need to do. Second thing you need to do, you need to minimize or alleviate or eliminate your debt, so you don't leave anyone any debt. Then you need to take care of yourself by having an emergency fund. And again, that emergency fund, especially if you build up 6 months of all your expenses, that's a form of generational wealth, because I can build off of that. If you leave me zero, can somebody help me out? Can somebody help me out? If you zero plus zero is what? Anybody? Zero plus zero. I know I'm not being facetious, but 0 plus 0 is 0. 0 times 0 is 0. 0 minus 0 is 0. 0 divided by 0 is 0. 0 by the 10th power of 0 is 0. So if you leave me 0, I have 0. But if you leave me debt, I have less than 0. Think about that. If you leave me debt, I got less than 0. And you're like, how in the hell can you have less than 0? That means that you owe people money when your parents died. They left you debt. You have less than 0. But if you did those things to start generational wealth and you built up that emergency fund, right? That means if you have $10, $20, $30,000 you saved up and you did the right thing with your will and or trust, when you passed away, you have left wealth, right? Because wealth, to me, let me tell you what wealth is. I'm not going by some white man's dictionary. I'm going to tell you what wealth is. I'm obtaining something with no obligation that I can build on. Let me say it again. I'm obtaining tangibles that I can build on without any obligation, that I can then set forth in times 2, times 3, times 4, times 5 it. And you can do all that with your emergency fund, leaving generational wealth. Then if you be so lucky, if you be so intelligent, you go out and buy a house and you start paying on that house. And if you had the financial savviness to get a 15-year mortgage versus a 30-year mortgage, or if you saved up enough money to save it all, then quite frankly, let's say, for instance, you're 40. Let's say you're 40 and you buy your first house. That means by 55, your first house is paid off. You're not even in your 60s. So you have already built generational wealth because you're like, I have a son, I have a daughter, and you leave it to one of them. And you know who the most responsible person is. And see, I get this question all the time. I say, hey, I got a house, I paid off, and I don't know who to leave it to. Should I leave it to my son or do I say, hey, your best case is to leave it to the most level-headed, intelligent, reasonable child. See, some people, they don't understand it. Like, well, I'm gonna leave it to both my kids. You're gonna have trouble on your hand, even in your death. You're not gonna be able to rest peacefully in your grave. I hate to say it. I don't think that's a good idea. Now you might have your siblings, you might have your kids fighting against each other about mom left you the house or dad left you the house, and I got it. But at the same time, if you have them fighting over the house, I think that's going to be far worse than they already know who's getting the house. That's just my opinion. But you can leave them a house if you go about it the right way. And you may not leave them a house that's paid off, but what if you left them a house that's halfway paid off? That could be significant for generational wealth. Because now they don't need to get into a 30-year mortgage. They don't need to get into a 15-year mortgage. They can just finish off the payments in 5 years because you left the house to them. So in 5 years, your family now owns a house. See, this is how you build generational wealth. You start small and it starts to build on itself. You pass down that wisdom. You pass down that advice and it builds on itself year after year, decade after decade. Have we not learned anything about generational wealth? Generational wealth didn't just start, oh, let me make $1 million and let me just get that out to people. No, it started with a foundation and it started small and it started to build. Let's take, for instance, I used Walmart the other day. Sam Walmart opened up a convenience store and he made that one convenience store great. And then when he made that one convenience store, he took the profits and he built another convenience store and he built another convenience store. And then he moved out of state and built another convenience store and moved out of that state and built another convenience store. Now Walmart is everywhere, worldwide. It's even here. Generational wealth, you start small, but it has to start with you. Stop thinking all the way up here over your head that you have to just do all of these things. No, the only thing you have to do is plant the seed. Planting the seed is buying the house, keeping the payments. If you're going to build a business, make the business solid. You don't have to expand so fast. Make the business and make the financial solid. What if the only thing you have is a stock portfolio? Well, do what I do. I do my research and I invest. And if I surpass in my will or my trust, I've left that to my son. I've left that to my family. So what if they want to cash out my portfolio? I don't care. I'm dead. Hopefully they buy a house. Hopefully they create a business. Hopefully they're just not going out buying stupid stuff like clothes and cars. Hopefully they build off of my hard work. That's the only thing you can help for. You can give them your wisdom. You can give them your advice. But at the same time, when you dead, don't even worry about it. People are worried about stuff when they're dying. If you're trying to build generational wealth, the only thing you can do is set your family up for success. Because when you're dead and gone, whatever decision they make, it don't even matter. You're not even around to make it. You are done. There's no lights in the box. We need to stop worrying about things that don't affect us when we pass away. But what we at least need to do is plant the seed, to do the small things in order to build generational wealth. That's all I really wanted to say to you guys today. I didn't want to beat the drum too much. I'm about to get out here on the ocean. But nonetheless, this is how you build generational wealth. And hopefully for people who were up here, hey, first, do the right things by yourself. Have a will, have a trust, build a business or buy a house or have a stock portfolio, or just have cash in hand. Allocate it to the people who you love and you think it deserve the most. And that way, if you didn't finish it, they can at least grab the baton and continue to run with your family and or your dreams of generational wealth. This Financial Literacy 101. Learn money and be inspired. And thank Egypt Toro and as well as Wanda Wisdom. Thank you for joining the podcast today, ladies and gentlemen. I'm out. You guys have a great and wonderful evening. I'm about to hit the waves on vacation, baby.